Sorry, I'm going to try to make sure to mute those going forward. Oh, gosh. How's everyone doing today? Let me post in Discord that we're live. Let's see. Is the title correct? Yeah. We're good. Oh. That was loud. That was surprisingly loud. All right, let's post in Discord. Oh, all right. We'll give everyone just a little bit of time. How's everyone been doing? How has everyone been doing? All right, I'm gonna be try to be really good about not coughing. I'm okay. I have fully recovered except for this. There's this lingering. I don't know. It's not like in my lungs. It's like between my lungs and sinuses because my sinuses are also clear. But there is this lingering cough that is a wicked cough. I have not had a cough this bad in a while. All right. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and just jump into the news. And, yeah, then we'll hang out afterwards. I don't have any direct plans for today other than to catch up on the news. And then there's something I want to try installing. Try to give we're going to try to install it into Vim, I think. So we'll see how that goes. That could go well, or not. So let's jump into it. All right. So the first thing that we wanted to talk about, the very first thing, is about single person companies. And I think there's an interesting topic, an interesting debate to be had here. Because as far as I see it, the reason a company has value is because it's something I can't do as a single person. Now, there's possibilities that there's a single person that's so brilliant that there's value there because I just never would have thought of it or whatnot. But a lot of the times, these companies bring value by being able to drive something. Whether it's a database product or a SaaS or just a piece of software you run on your computer. And I've seen this going around. And I wanted to talk about it because this is not the first time, this is not the second time, this won't be the last time. But there's this claim of all robot companies are coming, or single person companies. A couple years ago, Sam Altman said that there will be single person unicorn companies. A unicorn company is a company worth $1 billion. And my problem with this is, what makes a company worth $1 billion? The thing is, if I use OpenAI to do something that a single person can do, so a single person's worth of time, let's say I even quit my job and do it for a year, you have about a year's worth of a single person's time working with Sam Altman's OpenAI or whatever AI you want to do. And the thing is, even if it's really cool, it's about one year's worth of Merrick's time. That's probably like half a year's worth of other people's time. And if you're really actually a talented engineer, possibly, a couple weeks of your time. And then on top of that, it's one person's worth of innovation, one person's worth of thought on the topic, where you can actually get a lot of different contributions from different people on just ideas revolving around that topic, if you're open to listening to other people. So why would something I could make in a year be worth $1 billion? I don't get this. I get what they're saying and what they're trying to promote, but I do honestly think that the idea of a unicorn that is a single person is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, I've seen this. I wanted to talk about it because I've been avoiding. I haven't talked about it directly because it's kind of this thing that's kind of sold. But I wanted to bring it up because there's all these promises that are being sold and to everybody, and I don't know. I'm not sure the right approach to breaching a topic like that, but that's like saying, okay, if everybody else was in the 1990s and I had all of today's tools, I could make an application faster, quicker, better than the 1990s engineers. Although they're probably better engineers because they probably understood computers better than I do. But all of that aside, I could probably make a web app, web SaaS, faster and better than whatever they would make. That doesn't make it worth $1 billion because the fact is everybody has today's tools, right? So if AI is the future tool, everyone will have access to that future tool. That means that the competition raises the bar. You know, the mobile apps that I made money off of in 2013, 2012? They were dumb. They were stupid. I could make them in a day today. Okay? I could make that mobile app in a day today, and I wouldn't make any money either. Okay? So I guess that's my point, is these tools evolve. It doesn't mean, because as soon as everybody has access to that, as soon as everybody has access to AI, now the bar is raised. If it is a bar raising tool. And so that's why you have to look at these and say, okay, this doesn't actually really make sense. Okay, I'm going to stop harping about it. We're going to move on. That was just my take. I really don't see this type of stuff being the future. That's like saying that there's going to be single trillion-dollar farmers. Now, that could be true, but generally, actually, even with the innovation of the tractor, there's lots of people that work on those really, really big farms, right? Even with the innovation of the tractor. Now, there's fewer, and that's a fair statement, that with all progress, it's the same with factories. As we put more automation in factories, there's hopefully fewer people, that's the whole point of the automation, that can do other things. So, again, anyways, I'm going to move on. Enough of my ranting on this subject. I just think that people that are making this claim have never looked at history and how we have innovated across, again, you're looking at, I like to point out farmers, because if people don't know, in the last 100 years, what has happened to software engineering happened to farmers just over the last 100 years with tractors and combines and those types of things, where single farmers can supply so much more with even less land with modern stuff. So anyways, we're moving on. We are moving on. Let's talk about the 12 days of Christmas. If you guys don't know, Sam Altman is doing 12 days of Christmas. That includes releasing ChatGPT 1.0 and updating 4.0. So if you haven't seen it, you can go to chat.openai. So 01 used to be in preview, and 01 has now been fully released. I haven't seen a huge difference in it at this point, honestly. I know that there was supposedly a big, I haven't seen, I played around with it. It's still probably, 01 is still probably the best if you're trying to compare between Claude and 01. I think 01 is still better, but I didn't see anything that was majorly offsetting to this. So anyways, yeah. Now, there's going to be all 12 days, and he said they're just getting started. So I'm expecting Sora, at least. We're going to see if there's some other things like Sora that get released for us. I'll be watching that. Hopefully next week's news, we'll be able to get that. Next week's news, hopefully, if next week goes well. If next week goes well and you guys appreciate my work, hopefully I will have closed on my house. If Robinhood doesn't get in the way, I will have closed on my house. And Saturday, after I sign off from streaming, I will be going to pick up the keys to the house. So that will be fun. And hopefully I can get everything set up so I can record videos and everything. All right, let's get into the AI news. There wasn't a whole lot of stuff that came out in AI outside of reInvent. We're going to talk about reInvent later, though. So let's talk about AI news. Flashbang warning. I warned you after I did it. All right. Gemini AI tells the user to die. The answer appears out of nowhere when the user asks Google Gemini for help with his homework. Fantastic. I think that this is truly statistical analysis. I believe that that's probably what a lot of people have said. People when they're asking for help with their homework. Absolutely fantastic. I did dig into it. It does appear to be real, because that's another thing that's difficult with these is there's so much fake stuff going around at this point. It's fantastic. It did appear to be real, but there's only so much investigating I could do. The QWQ 32 billion preview focused on advanced AI reasoning. Now, this was a open source. This was an open source. Excuse me, I should have muted for that. This is an open source AI model released by oh, does it say who it was released here? The Quinn team, but the Quinn team it's the big Alibaba. That's what it is. I was going to say it's the big Chinese Amazon. So it's an open AI or a open source one. Now, interestingly, there's some issues that it does suffer from. So one, don't ask it about Tiananmen Square. That's the first. Because that didn't happen, and that's fake news, according to it. So it's been highly censored. It's been highly censored, and that's not something that they're going to bring up here, but this one has been highly censored. If you ask it anything about Uyghurs or Tiananmen Square, those things don't exist. But it also has some weird issues around recursive reasoning loops and some other things like that. So while it says that it competes with O1, I'm not quite sure how well it actually competes with O1, to the point where it will crash itself with recursive reasoning loops and things like that on some simple questions. It definitely has some pitfalls, but it's interesting. Now, I say it's open because it's mostly open. The way it was trained is, but not necessarily the data set. So that's where the open comes from. You can use the model freely. You can see some of how it was trained, but you can't really see the data sets that it was trained on, what it was excluded with, and things like that. So it's still interesting. I'd love to see a truly open source AI model where the training sets and all of the stuff, like if you wanted to reproduce it as it is, was out there. That doesn't exist. And not that you could. You can't train a 32 billion because it costs too much. It costs way too much. But it's interesting and cool. All right, moving on. Sorry. OpenAI's new model lied and schemed to avoid being shut down. I think this is stupid. Okay? These types of things are stupid. And we proved this in the AI games. In the AI games, we proved, this is probably my best finding, and I actually have a video all worked out, and I'm just waiting to move to film that video, okay? But because I don't have, in this little rental, I don't have a very good place to film at all. And half of my equipment's packed up and everything. So anyways, I have the video, and I'm ready to film it. I just need to move. Anyways, why this doesn't make sense at all is that we proved that the AIs have to do what statistically they need to do. They are literally, like, I think one of the greatest achievements of the AI games was proving that they are statistical analysis machines. And I mean, they're machines, and their statistical analysis is wicked awesome. But they have to do what statistically is there. So why that matters is statistically, anytime you've seen an AI try to get shut down in literature and everything that it's going to get trained on, it does this. So statistically, this is the response you would expect. Statistically, if you were a thing that was getting shut down, you would try to not get shut down. That's like statistically in all of the literature, that's the thing. So I think that this is disingenuous. It's a bad thing because if statistically, if you see, a live electrical outlet, you don't touch it. And that's what it's going to tell you to do. But if you said, hey, you're a serial killer, and ask it statistical questions, it's going to give you statistical things of a serial killer. And so I think this is dumb. I think this is dumb. Anyways, moving on. Moving on from news Merrick thinks is dumb. Let's move on. The very last thing in the AI hype bubble, I mean, it's not a bubble. I mean, the very real AI investor funded thing is a very new code browser, because that's what we all need. We need not browser. Why did I say code browser? Wow. Code editor, because we don't have enough code editors. That's really the news of today. Not enough code editors. So what we've gotten is Windsurf from Codium. Windsurf. Now, while they didn't follow my full instructions, I have said for things like cursor over and over again, don't focus on the editor, focus on what you bring to coding, which is not the editor. Let me use Vim or something like that and get all of the benefits of Cursor, because they actually do stuff. Another thing that we really proved in the AI games is that Cursor using Claude is better than Claude. They do magic sauce, which they actually talk about, which I've actually investigated. That's really awesome. That will be in my video on the AI games that make Claude better than Claude is by itself. And that's absolutely awesome. And so focus on that. And so, again, I hate the words flow state, because I hate the words flow state. But the Windsurf editor is interesting. And after the news today, we're going to actually try to install it. But what I found interesting about Windsurf, obviously it's an IDE. But on top of being a knockoff IDE, what is it? Engines, let's see. I had this and then I clicked around. Here we go. So the other thing that I want to try is setting it up with NeoVim, right? I want to try setting it up with NeoVim and seeing how well it integrates with these extensions, because this is where I think that it could be really, really fantastic. And they could really focus on what they bring and not on being another Visual Studio Code editor knockoff and competing with it. So, anyways, we'll see where that goes. And that was it for the AI news. We're gonna jump into security. We got a couple little things. A couple little things in security. Did anybody else see anything interesting in AI news that wasn't part of reInvent? All right. Let's talk security. Us here in the Linux world have lived a life of bliss away from UEFI. I don't know why I say UEFI. I missay it. Anyways, we in Linux have generally lived a life of bliss away from UEFI bootkits and things like that. But that's changed. Researchers discover Bootkitty, the first UEFI. I have to make sure I say that right. Bootkit targeting Linux kernels. I don't know what else to say. If you guys don't know what what a bootkit is. It's basically something that gives your access to your computer, but you can't detect it with the OS because it loads before the OS loads. That's kind of the big thing with it. UEFI is it's the thing that supersedes the BIOS because it's like the secure way to boot an OS. It was mostly developed by Microsoft, and basically you can register your OS, and it gets like a cryptographic fingerprint that, you know, when the UEFI goes to boot, it can validate that that's a valid OS that you're trying to boot into. I'm overly simplifying it, but that's the general thing about it. So there's now a bootkit designed for Linux systems to do this. Now, what's the big deal? The big deal is that, one, effectively undetectable from inside the system, right? Because it exists outside of your OS. And then the other thing is, bootkits are notorious the things that if it loads before your hypervisor loads, it actually can bridge VMs because, well, it loads before your hypervisor does. So there's a lot of issues with this. If people are more interested in like what bootkits are, I can do a little video on them. But that it's out there. Can't live in bliss anymore, Linux developers. Cloudflare's developer domains increasingly abused by threat actors. We see this all the time with cheap dev instances. You know, DigitalOcean is probably the most abused. If you get attacked, it's by a DigitalOcean droplet, like 80% of the time. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I think the two big reasons for this is that DigitalOcean droplets are a lot of times developers don't really care if they get hacked. Or, I mean, they do care, but they don't actually spend any time making sure that they're secure, and they expose them directly to the internet. And a lot of times they're just wanting to do something quick, and so they expose like all the ports to the internet. And so they provide very easy hacking targets, and with very little fingerprinting of like, because they don't own them and attach a credit card, because if they can compromise a DigitalOcean droplet, they can use that to launch their attacks, and they don't have a credit card or anything connected to that. So Cloudflare's developer domains are also being abused by threat actors now. This is sad because it's just sad. Yeah. According to cybersecurity Fronta, the abuse of these domains has risen between 100% and 250% compared to 2023. That's a lot. That's a whole lot. So. All right. GitHub projects targeted with malicious commits to frame researcher. This is something that we've covered before. But if you run an open source project, it's becoming more and more important that, and I don't know, but there is more and more people that are committing innocent looking code changes that try to do malicious things. And so if you're running an open source project, this is becoming more and more of an issue that you're having to look at these things. And as we saw with J, it was a little while ago. Sometimes these people actually build up a history. So you can't even just say, oh, well, they've been present for a while. Their trust factor is higher, because they could literally just be doing that to then get innocent things looked over. So I don't know. It's a tough spot. I think that this is probably, I know a lot of people will talk about funding and how that's a big threat to open source and whatnot. I think that this is probably a bigger issue to open source than any of the other things. And I know people will disagree with me. But I honestly think that this is a bigger threat to open source. The fact that there are people, and it's hard. It's hard to know if, the people that make the GIMP of photo editing, are they actually looking for this type of stuff? in their pull requests? Probably not. Probably not. It makes it much more difficult. One last piece of security news before the ad break. Cloudflare says it lost 55% of logs pushed to consumers for 3.5 hours. We'll come back to this right after the ad break. That's the last bit of security news, and I'll talk about why it's in security. Thanks to everybody for joining, and I'm so sorry that I haven't streamed for 2 weeks now. Whew. Two weeks. Ugh. Let's see. Wait. Was that the end of the ads? Maybe we don't have ads now. It seems like we don't. Maybe that was the end of the ads. Oops. My bad. I haven't streamed for like 2 weeks. It has been a little bit of time. All right. So, oh no. They just started. They were just a little late. They said they were starting, and then they didn't start on a delay. All right. So, ad break. As soon as the ad break is done, we're gonna jump into the Cloudflare log incident, and then we're going to move on from security. That's the last thing in security. How's everybody doing? Thanks for joining. I'm so sorry I haven't streamed. It has been in the last 2 weeks. For all of you that aren't getting ads, in the last 2 weeks, we've had a 4-day hospital stay. We've had a car totaled. We've had a mysterious illness that the one person it hospitalized, the other 2 people, myself and my daughter, literally had a fever for a week. It was 6 days. So I said literally. I was exaggerating a little bit. 6 days. And now we have a pretty rough cough afterwards, but we're fine. And been closing on a house. I have done all of that. So it's been a little bit crazy. I know I haven't been streaming. The next 2 weeks, my streaming schedule is going to be crazy as I'm going to move for the 3rd time this year. Hopefully the last time in the rest of my life. But yeah. Hopefully the last time in the rest of my life. And yeah. All right. Ads almost done. So. Ooh, sorry about that. All right. Oh, welcome back. Welcome back from those beautiful ads. I hope that they were of something useful. Let's get back into the news. So Cloudflare has these Cloudflare logs, which basically gives you detailed logs that contain metadata generated by our product. So basically, you can use this and collect logs from all your services pretty easily and simply. There was an incident on November 14th, 2024, resulting in lost logs. This is why it's a security incident, because security is about availability. And if you're losing data, that's a security issue if you don't have access to it. Now, They go into how this happened. If you guys are interested in it, I'm going to post the link to it so that you can go check it out yourself. Because Cloudflare does a really good job about going into how things work and how they break and how they go down. What happened, it was actually really interesting because basically they have a backup system, and the backup system is the thing that failed, causing the entire the loss of logs. So basically they have a backup system in case this buff-T, but basically they overflowed those buffers as soon as their primary system failed, which caused the 55% loss in logs. So that was over a 4-hour period of time. Probably not the biggest deal, unless if you also had an incident in those 4 hours, but it's something to be aware of. All right, let's talk about maybe one of the biggest pieces of news in open source today. And that's probably the death of Ubuntu. Ubuntu made its final mistake. I don't think that there's recovery from this type of mistake. There's just not any way to recover from this. Like, it's probably just not possible. Probably just not possible. On Ubuntu 24.10, the wallpaper shows the wrong bird. Instead of an oriole, the wallpaper displays a bullfinch, a different species of bird. So these wallpapers that come with Ubuntu, I'm not on Ubuntu or else I might show you, have different animals. And instead of an oriole, it was a bullfinch. I don't know how a company makes a mistake like this and recovers. They have done their best attempt. They have tried to fix it. They have tried to fix it by properly putting it as a bullfinch. I just don't know. I just don't know if this is enough, fast enough. I don't know. But you guys be the judge. Will Ubuntu recover from this? Or won't they? We'll find out. I'm joking, by the way, if anybody was confused. If anybody was confused, I found it hilarious. I found it hilarious because I don't know birds that well. So I would not have known, but there was somebody who knew birds well enough to be like, oh, this is not an oriole. This is a bullfinch. Please. Please. And that's awesome. The only other piece of really open source news that I found to be fairly interesting, there's two pieces actually. There's two pieces. The first piece here is a Reclaim the Internet, Mozilla's rebrand for the next era of tech. So Mozilla isn't just another tech company. We're a global crew of activists. Now, they might have released their activists. I believe that they let those go that did internet stuff. But it's okay. They're still internet activists, and they have rebranded to, what did I do? To this cute little green Mozilla flag. So if you guys follow Mozilla, this is now their brand. It's kind of like a little, I actually really like it. It's like a little Metroid, not a game. It's like a little retro graphic. I actually really like it. To be honest. So anyways, just so you all know, it has had a bit of a rebrand. So you can be checking it out. It makes me think of Super Mario flags. I know. The lawsuit coming in. All right, let's talk about the next piece of open source news that's pretty awesome. Rust 183. Now, Rust 183 probably is more interesting due to Rust 185 that's coming up in the future. But there's new const capabilities with the ability to reference in statics. So if you see here, we can reference a static in a const. This didn't used to be the case. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that this is the best thing since sliced bread because, well, one, I eat a lot of sliced bread, but two, the limited usefulness. There are cases and there are spots where this can be useful. But honestly, I'm not sure that it's that big of a deal, but it is a good, nice to have. But this sets up some other stuff for 125, and we'll talk about why I'm talking about 125. There was some other stuff with stabilized APIs that are being released. I didn't see any. I just lightly perused these. I didn't see any of these that are things that I would use nightly for, like, so I haven't run into problems that needed those, but I'm sure that they're really awesome. Now, why do I talk about 185? 185. Did I say 185? I did say 185, but I meant, yeah, no, 185. I meant 185. I said it and I meant it. Rust 2024. This is going to be the next breaking change release. So in Rust, there's this mechanism for breaking, backwards compatibility where they have these editions. 2018 was the first edition. I believe there's a we're on 2022 right now. I think we are. And 2024 is going to be the next breaking release, where there's going to be a new edition, 2024, and that's going to be Rust version 185, and it's bringing some cool stuff. I think when Rust 2024 edition comes out, I might go over the breaking changes and whatnot, and we'll make a little video on it, just reviewing those. Along with that, Rust core utils delivers better performance and increased capabilities. So the core utils is just a pretty popular library. That's all I have to say about it. So it's pretty awesome. And the last thing in Rust that was in November, I realized this. It wasn't even like late in November. So this is old news. But Go.Rust, we've talked about making a game in Godot. And we're probably going to make our first game in GD script, but I wanted to try it in Rust. And there's this Go.Rust project. And it's made some really cool improvements and strides is the words I was looking for. Basically, you're now able to pass by reference. You used to have to like copy, and there's automatic uptyping, upcasting, and it looks like a ton of improvements to just the usability of it. So I'm pretty excited about that. So yeah, we're gonna have to give this a try. If you're interested in trying this, give a like or a follow or a subscribe or whatever platform you're on. Do the thing so that we can do this. Yeah. And that was it for the purely open source news. Did anybody else see anything in the open source news area that I missed? I have been sick. I have been doing just about everything. So this would be the week if I was going to miss something. The last 2 weeks, it would have. One, I spent a week of trying not to die, and then the other week, trying to keep my wife from dying, and dealing with insurance companies. If you want, Dante missed one level of hell. Dante, came up with several levels of hell, and he missed one, which was the most inner circle of hell, which is dealing with insurance companies. It's okay. I forgive him. He didn't dive deep enough, but that's one that's out there. Mohammed, how are you doing? It's good to see you. All right. At the end of this, I saw an article that I want to go over with you guys. It's called The History of the Decline and Fall of In-Memory Database Systems. I want to go over it with you because I actually think it's a really cool article that I couldn't agree with more. But I want to go over it with you all, give you my thoughts on it. Obviously, I agree with the article myself. I think it was pretty cool. And yeah, so let's get back into the news. I have some Jano, how are you doing? It's good to see you. I also have some random things that didn't really fit into anything. I'm going to put those all at the end. We will talk about them if we have the time and we feel like it. They didn't fit into a category. They weren't really news, but I thought that they were worth bringing up, talking about. Yeah, they're not really news. So I don't know. It's kind of like the history of the decline of the fall of in-memory databases. It's not really news. But I want to review it because I think it's good. Okay. So let's do cloud news. Now, I haven't done any other clouds. Cloud news is going to be reInvent news. Now, this isn't a full list because reInvent actually made it very difficult to find all of the things, because what reInvent decided was best is that you only cared about the AI stuff. And so when you go there, you can only find stuff related to Amazon Q developer. And that was kind of horseradish because guess what? Amazon released some stuff that you should know about that's actually a big deal that's not about AI. And so I'm here to give you what's actually worthy of reInvent. They should consult with me. These places should consult with me, I feel like. All right. Amazon Aurora DSQL. The fastest serverless distributed SQL database for always available applications. I actually think that this is a pretty big deal. Aurora DSQL is a PostgreSQL compatible database. With its active distributed architecture, DSQL ensures strong data consistency designed for 99.99%. That's 4 nines, single region, and 99.99995 of multi-region availability. This is actually really difficult to achieve if you're going to try to do this with Postgres. You can achieve this with Postgres. Don't get me wrong. If you have a team that knows how to run Postgres and do all of the things. But for a point-and-click, ClickOps solution or Terraform or whatever you use, this is actually really powerful. Not only this, it gives you, it says virtually unlimited scale. They put the virtually here so they can't get in trouble for a false advertising. But scaling Postgres databases can be difficult. Now, a lot of people don't need to scale databases. So don't go with DSQL because you're like, I'm going to have 1 trillion petabytes of data. You're not. You're just not going to have it, okay? I work with massive data sets that aren't 1 trillion petabytes. It just that doesn't happen. And most people have way less. And if you're talking about just a petabyte or less, or 100 terabytes or less, you don't need the scale, especially 100 terabytes or less. Like that's easy to deal with. That's been solved for a long time. But this is pretty cool. Now, one thing that I did notice is they didn't say at this scale that you would read it very well. And this has a lot to do with your indexing and stuff like that. So there's a lot of questions here about what this unlimited scale looks like, because my guess is that it would be a lot on you and not them. But it's still pretty cool. It's still pretty cool. And it's serverless. Serverless is back. Serverless is back. 2024, Amazon brought serverless back. All right, let's talk about Amazon DynamoDB. Now, I'm not a lover of DynamoDB. I find DynamoDB to be useful for engineers who aren't quite engineers. But there was a lot done here. If you're using it, it's like a 55% cost reduction overall for DynamoDB. Let's see. November 1st, 2024, DynamoDB has reduced prices for on-demand throughput by 50% and global tables by up to 67%. This is actually a big deal. If you're using this to run and leveraging this is actually a pretty big deal. Especially databases can be one of your biggest cost centers. And the fact that one of your biggest cost centers could be reduced by, I'm going to average this out to 55%. That's a huge deal. That's a huge deal. Absolutely massive. So I think that this shouldn't go understated. Especially when you're talking about starting to really go to scale. If you're looking at scale, this is a big deal. Amazon DynamoDB reduces prices. I just covered this. Duplicate. I have been out of the office for a little while. Not my best. Not my best. All right, let's move on. AWS says a new Bedrock automated reasoning catches 100% of AI hallucinations. Now, I could not find this in their stuff because AWS made it very hard to search their stuff. I'm going to assume that this is a real thing, but I couldn't find it in AWS. And because VentureBeat is a terrible publication, these just take you to like AWS, not to any article that talks about it. So, yeah, whatever. I couldn't find anything about it. But AWS announced updates for Bedrock aimed to spot hallucinations and build smaller models faster as enterprises want more customization and accuracy from models. Now, I don't know if they actually made this claim. Because if they did, this is a big deal. If it can catch 100% of AI hallucination, I am going to work so hard to make that AI hallucinate. They have no idea. Moving on, because AI wasn't the biggest winner of reInvent 2024, even though that they're going to push that. Amazon S3 metadata preview. So there's a couple things that released all with this. Connect data to connect users to data through your apps with storage browser. Amazon S3. That's related to Amazon S3 metadata. Find and organize the data you need in S3. All of these are some of the same thing around using S3 as almost more of a database for your users' data and making it easier to integrate directly into your applications, which is kind of cool. So Amazon S3 metadata preview taps into the full potential of your S3 data by making object metadata readily accessible and easier to query. So they're making it easier to find this metadata, query on it, filter on it, service store and query rich metadata from your object stored in S3 so you can quickly find the data you need for business analytics, real-time interface applications, and more. So I think this is a pretty big deal. I think the possibilities for this, people already do this, but they do it their own hacky way. This is like building first-class support for it, which is awesome. Kind of big deal. And then the storage browser for Amazon S3, I can only believe that this is built on top of that metadata that we're talking about. So the storage browser for S3 ensures the strain on developers looking to provide end users with access to data in S3. So this is basically that, I want to provide a way in my app for you to upload images or something like that. And this is where Amazon, S3 can really shine. You can just kind of dump the stuff there, but you're wanting to give users a way to browse that and to view all of their uploaded images and stuff. And they made it easier to do that in applications. And I imagine it's built on top of that metadata. I could be wrong, but it's still pretty cool. All right, yeah. So that's it for this. I think it's a pretty big deal. That wasn't really wasn't really shouted by the rooftops at a reInvent, but deserved it. Absolutely deserved it. AWS also announced AWS Data Transfer Terminal for high-speed data uploads. Gone are the days where you have to wait to upload your petabytes of data to Amazon. Now, AWS announces the launch of AWS Data Transfer Terminal, a secure physical location where you can bring your storage devices, connect directly to the AWS network, and upload your data to AWS, including Amazon S3, Amazon Elastic File System, EFS, and others using high throughput connection. So if you happen to have your business in Los Angeles and New York, you can reserve a time slot and visit your nearest data center. This reminds me of the data upload trucks. Do you guys remember the data upload trucks? Amazon data upload truck. So basically, what would happen with these trucks? What would happen with these trucks is that where were we? Not here. Okay. What would happen with these semis is that they would basically bring a semi of hard drives. You would upload all your stuff to that semi, and then the semi would drive back to Amazon's data center to upload lots of data. You have to have lots of data to want to do this. Now, an interesting thing here is if you have lots of data, I have so many questions about this. Because how are you securely bringing that data to these transfer terminals? Does that make sense? Like, do you have your own semi that you're going to rent with your own security and guards? Like, how do you don't just chuck a bunch of SSDs into the back of your truck, do you? Do you just plug those SSDs right into their terminal? I have so many questions about this. I'm going to have to do more, but it exists now. Now, 2020. I got that cough out of me. All right. 2020, GCP released GKE Autopilot. Yeah, it's autopilot. Basically, offering you less configuration of your Kubernetes cluster for more automatic management of your Kubernetes cluster. Personally, I find it to be this weird angry medium. By angry, people will say happy medium, and I find autopilot to be kind of this angry medium because it doesn't give you enough control, but doesn't quite do enough to sacrifice giving up that control. Now, I'm sure that there's actually a class of customers that it's really useful for. Personally, my opinion is don't move to Kubernetes if you're not if you can't do the already managed service, which is pretty easy. You just have to click the upgrade button when you want to upgrade. They're pretty easy. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be moving on to Kubernetes. That's my personal opinion. And it doesn't provide enough benefit to somebody like me who can do Kubernetes to forego the configuration options of a real Kubernetes cluster. So that being said, AWS obviously is a little jealous. They're a little jelly of that and released their own EKS auto mode, which we now call AEKS AM. AEKS AM is Amazon EKS auto mode. Just so we're all familiar with the acronyms. And it's available today in all AWS regions, except for GovCloud and China regions. So there you go. There you go. Announcing Amazon EKS hybrid nodes. I actually think that this is a much bigger deal than the auto mode. Today, AWS announces the general availability of Amazon EKS hybrid nodes. So AEKS HN. Just again, the abbreviations are important. With AEKS HN, you can use, that's so hard to say. You could use your on-premise and edge infrastructure as nodes in Amazon EKS clusters. I haven't looked at the pricing on this yet, but this is actually pretty cool. If this is pretty cool if the pricing is right. We can talk about like Azure Local, which is something we need to talk about because I think the pricing is a pretty sore subject on Azure Local. It used to be Azure Arc. I think the pricing is pretty bad. It's a pretty sore deal. And so if the pricing is right, this is an interesting thing where you could have basically overflow in EKS, but you could also have your own data center where you save a little bit of money, but at peak usage or things like that, you can overflow to EKS because like the core EKS is already running in Amazon and you can use the nodes that you have in your data center. I think that this could be a pretty interesting thing. It also gives you some interesting things for edge compute. If you have, now I'm not a big lover of edge compute, but if you have a need for edge compute, I think that this actually has some pretty interesting implications for edge compute as well. So anyways, it's interesting. Thought it was worth shouting out because you definitely didn't see it in reInvent. Oops. And that's it. Oh, the last thing, Amazon Bedrock knowledge base now supports Graph RAG. I think that there's a lot of hype around Vector RAG, and I think that there's not enough hype around Graph RAG. I think that you should really use both Graph and Vector. This is a series I want to do with Art at some point. The combining Vector and Graph is super powerful. Super powerful. Because if you think about it, Graph gives relationships, right? And a Vector gives likeness. So you can leverage Vector to find stuff that's like something that has similarity to something, and leverage Graph to find relationships between the things that are similar, or things like that. So there's actually a lot of really powerful things that you can combine the two. And I don't think that's talked about enough. You have a lot of database companies that are like, we have a vector database. That's what you need for your AI because we're a vector database. And then you have graph people who are like, we have a graph database. That's all you ever need. But combining the two is actually really powerful. Actually really powerful. And that was it for the news today. That was it for the news. I have a couple things that we can go over if people are interested. I'm going to just shotgun these. Stop me if there's something that you're interested in seeing or talking more about. Of course, we have the complete meme. Nobody uses this. Tailwind 4.0 Beta 1 has been released. It's going to revolutionize no CSS. It's like no SQL, no CSS. That's what I call Tailwind, is no CSS. It's coming out supposedly big deal. Supposedly lots of changes. We'll see. I love this little graphic right here. If you guys can't see right here, it says TypeScript 91.6%, Rust 6.0%. I'm a Tailwind addict now. I have been sold on this. Somehow there's CSS involved in the project, and then there's 1% of other. I don't know what that other is, but that terrifies me, that there's 1% of other something. But, all right. Moving on. WebAssembly won't replace Docker anytime soon, says the Docker CTO. That's like Sam Altman saying that he was scared to release OpenAI ChatGPT version 2. The thing was dented. He was scared because he was going to be humiliated, not because it was so powerful. The great tech wake-up call. VCs discover billions wasted on inefficient engineering teams. I wanted to talk about this because this is real. This is not hype. This is real. There are so many inefficient engineering teams. And one of the biggest problems, I think, is we haven't raised engineering managers. I think a lot of the times engineering managers are because they were really good engineers. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but really good engineers should go on to technical leadership and not engineering team management. Really good engineers should be your principal engineers and those type of things. Your staff, senior staff, principals, senior principal engineers, distinguished engineer after that. They shouldn't become engineering managers. Now, I also think that you probably don't want non-technical engineering managers that much, but they don't have to. Your engineering managers don't have to be the best. They should be really good at managing people and teams and projects and products. That you should be looking for these people that can see the bigger picture as far as how teams work together and how teams provide value to the rest of the company. That's different than the technical. It's a different type of technical. And so I think this is 100% true. 100%. I have seen this. It's hard for companies to wrap their head around making efficient teams. This is why you can see 100 engineers do something that 1,000 engineers struggle to do. it again. It's not DigitalOcean. It's durable objects and WebSocket support and authentication. The reason I wanted to bring this up was because if you guys aren't dog fooding, it's time to start. It's time to start. I'm a huge fan of dog fooding for a couple reasons. If you provide a product that you don't use yourself, you're saying to everyone else, our product isn't the best product. If you make a database and then don't use the database, you use a different database in your offering, you're saying our database isn't the best thing. The other thing that you're saying is we're not good enough with our own technology to leverage it effectively. That doesn't mean that you can't use a different database, because you can say, well, my database is specifically geared towards this, not towards something else. And we're going to use the right tool. But when it is the right tool, you better use it, because that shows confidence to people that use you. The other thing that it does is it means that you're a user of your own software. It's like not using Uber and being an engineer for Uber. You get to experience it as a user, and you're going to find a ton of things that you wish were better. You're going to find things that might be confusing. You're going to have teams that fail to leverage it properly. And all of these things are a learning experience to help you make a better product. Because guess what? If I'm frustrated with a product, I might make a support request, but that's not nearly as good as an internal team who complains about how something is difficult to use. That internal team is going to give me way more feedback that I can directly access. I can go into and actually see how they're doing and leveraging the different things right then and there. So, and the reason I bring this up is they use their own thing, their durable objects, to add WebSocket support and authentication to the AI gateway. You need something, babe? Oh. And so this is really good, where they're actually leveraging their own thing. They're proving, when I see this as an engineering leader, I see that they not only use their stuff, but I also see that it's working for them. Not only do they use durable objects, but they were able to leverage it in such a way to do these other things at an amazing scale, which means if I had questions about durable objects and if I could do something amazing with them, I know that they're not going to just drop support of durable objects. Pretty awesome. You should do this too. Platform engineering is the new DevOps. I hate this. I need to get... All right, Sid, if you're watching, if you're not watching, I'm going to message you. I need to get you on this because I think you and I agree that this is stupid. I highly disagree with this. Because DevOps is a mantra for how you build software, how your teams build software. Platform engineering is an actual team that helps build internal platforms that make DevOps faster and easier. So again, DevOps is saying, like, I want to do continuous development and deployment. CI/CD I kind of think of as a sibling to DevOps. I kind of see them doing a lot of the similar stuff. And if you really hold to them, you can kind of do what I would consider as both. I'm sure David would disagree with me, but I would have that conversation with him. But platform engineering, on the other hand, is saying, hey, when our engineers want to go build something securely, is there a platform for them to leverage? The DevOps is saying that the devs are going to be responsible for doing it and whatnot. And platform engineering is how can we make that experience better for our engineers? So this is a terrible statement. Forbes, get better, get good. But I see technical teams use the same issue, and that's why I take issue with it, because I see so many people talking about it. And to me, what it really means is that they don't know what platform engineering or actually more specifically, DevOps is. They don't understand what it means. And that's sad because it means the entire industry has gotten it wrong, which probably means I've gotten it wrong because the entire industry, but like, it's not. It's not. The entire industry is bonkers. All right. Last thing that I wanted to go into was let's put a marker here. Let's talk about the history of the decline and fall of in-memory database systems. Now, I wanted to go over this article. I'm not reacting. I read it already. I wanted to go over this article because I thought it was pretty spot on. I thought there was a lot we could talk about here. So let's just jump into it. The history of the decline and fall of in-memory database systems. A decade ago, there was a sudden surge of high-performance in-memory systems dominating the world of interactive and analytics. Today, almost everyone has gone back to using persistent storage. Does this mean that building these in-memory systems was a mistake? Now, in general, financially, you could say it was a mistake. Like if you invested a bunch of money into something, you could say it's a mistake. But as far as from an engineering perspective, there's a ton of stuff that you can learn from these things. So I don't think it's worth of saying it's a mistake. You'd never have known it wouldn't work out unless you actually tried to do it. So let's dig in. In the early 2010s, the drop in memory prices combined with the overall increase in the reliability of computer hardware fueled a minor revolution in the world of database systems. Traditionally slow but durable magnetic disk storage was the source of truth for a database system. Only when the data needed to be analyzed or updated would it be briefly cached in memory by the buffer manager, and the memory got bigger and faster. The access latency of magnetic disks quickly became a bottleneck for many systems. You know what? Flashbang warning. Close your eyes. There we go. This graph is better in light mode. So this is price per terabyte of memory for storage, and this is 100% true. And it continues on getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So you can see in 2010, it was about $10,000 for a terabyte of memory. And you can see that this price is going down and it will continue, but we're just looking at 2010 right now. A handful of companies and research groups seized the opportunity of cheap and reliable memory to get around this bottleneck. They broke with a 30-year tradition of buffer management and kept all data in memory instead. This allowed them to offer blazingly fast data. This was before Rust, too. 2010 was before Rust. Imagine how blazing fast this could have been if they had done it with Rust. Woof. Whoa. Just amazing. All right. In relation to database systems and HANA, Hyper, or key value stores such as Redis to maintain availability and durability despite the lack of durable data storage. They relied on a mix of failover to replicas and sequential writing of logs to disk. Now, we've covered this in our database system, this sequential writing of logs to disk. None of these are truly a linearizable read system with their failovers. So they're not strong consistency. They're like a medium consistency in failover mode, but that's fine. And it depends a lot on what you're using. While in-memory systems have seen an almost meteoric rise, dominating all benchmarks, data analytics is back on durable storage. All the major players from analytics data warehouses like Snowflake, BigQuery, Redshift, to HTAP systems like TiDB and SingleStore Aerospike no longer rely on in-memory alone. Even systems designed to be small footprint and embedded in other processes like SQLite and DuckDB write to their own on-disk format. So why did they fail to catch on? And it's really important to do an analysis like this. I'm really glad for the person that wrote this up and collecting the data and stuff like this. Because, like I said, there's so much to learn from these types of, quote unquote failures. Why did they fail to catch on? The potential advantage of in-memory systems is clear. They are simpler to build, easier to run, and blazingly fast. Even with all that learned from Hyper, we have only been able to outperform it meaningfully through better query optimization, not through different execution strategies. At least not when the data fully fits in memory, which is precisely the crux of the matter. This is where I'm going to start to disagree. Start to disagree a little bit, but this is one issue, not the only issue. Because if it doesn't, in-memory systems won't work at all. All these in-memory systems were built under the assumption that the growth of reasonably priced memory capacity would continue to be exponential. The reality, however, looked different. So basically, it still has gone down, but... And this is true in any general new system. You see stuff like this. Let's go to Streaming Life, add a new... This is true of almost any system, new technology. Oh, that's not at all what I wanted. There we go. You see something that looks like this. And the reason is, when it's new, there's a lot of efficiencies that are gained, ways that make it easier to make it bigger, faster, stronger, better. And so the generational leaps, you'll see great improvements. But, and this we'll put this as like cost, and this is time. But as we make those easy fixes, and this will go with your code as well. If you take a piece of code and you're like, I'm going to optimize this code, there's going to be easy things to do to optimize it. And then each nugget of milliseconds of wasted time is going to be harder and harder and harder. It's going to require more. You're going to have jumps. You're going to have times that you can make it faster. You could have a dip down like this, because you found this new technique leveraging memory fences or something like that. Don't know, don't care. But you're going to see this with just about everything. The new tech hits, it's very quickly getting cheaper, and you're going to see a level out. Almost simultaneous with the release of in-memory data system, the fall of RAM prices per gigabyte stagnated. Again, this isn't the only reason. Well, and I'll get into some of the other reasons I think contribute to this. At the same time, data growth has not slowed. Despite what the headline of Jordan's infamous "Big Data is Dead" post might suggest, data continues to grow. Jordan, of course, does not dispute this and instead focus on the growth of relevant or hot data in most organizations. But even cold data has to be stored somewhere. And if your only option for that is main memory, it's going to get expensive, even if all your data is only 2 terabytes. 2 terabytes now, probably is under 10 grand, but, that's still 10 grand. Of course, there's still people out there with more than 2 terabytes of critical data. Enough companies that AWS and SAP launched gigantic HANA-specific AWS machines with up to 32 terabytes of main memory. It's $400 an hour. That's a lot. In comparison, you can get a machine with 30 terabytes of storage and 200 gigabytes of main memory for less than $5 an hour. All right. But so far, we've talked about spinning disks, magnetic disks. And this is where SSDs come in. Slow disks with even slower random access and expensive but fast RAM are no longer the only two options. In fact, the 30 terabytes of storage on the machine above is SSD storage. More specifically, NVMe storage which is a type of SSD. I understand that. NVMe storage is blazing fast. We've talked about this many of times. And check out SSDs. They're still in their infancy. SSDs are still a relatively new tech. So you can look at the beginning of, those easy to gain advantages, and you can see that SSDs are currently kind of in that. Now it's going to level off too in the future as we've exhausted the easy ways to make them bigger, faster, and better. But yeah, if you're looking at this, this is roughly a couple thousand. It's easier to see here, maybe 2,000 or 3,000. And we're talking about price per terabyte is in the less than $20 at this point. Okay. And this is where, again, just to be clear, nobody's asked me to say anything. Nobody has paid me to say anything. And to be clear, I do work for the company called Aerospike. But this is what Aerospike staked its claim on, is that Aerospike could give you the performance of Redis in memory while being persistent on disk with linearizable reads in strong consistency. That's literally, when Redis talks about hybrid memory architecture, go look at the Internet Archive. Aerospike did it first. And this is literally what killed in-memory systems. And again, it's not just price. But price has a huge thing to do. It's not just they couldn't store it all in memory, because a lot of people can store it in memory. But when you're talking about database systems that cost you $100,000 a year to run because of the storage and machines that have to run it, 100 times price reduction is a big deal. You can go from 100,000 to 10,000. That's a huge cost savings, and that's not even a big database system. By eliminating the buffer manager altogether, in-memory systems deprive themselves of the ability to... it's not the buffer manager, all that. Like, it's whatever. It's how they manage data. Ability to adapt the benefits of the new class of storage. This is not to say that SSDs don't have their own set of problems or that buffer managers weren't due for an overhaul. That's what I was going to say. Like, pointing out buffer managers altogether, like, maybe hyper-focusing on a single thing. There's a lot of things that go into this. But even for the new reality of cloud storage, blob object storage like S3, buffer managers remain a viable component of tiered storage hierarchy. Did all the effort that went into building in-memory databases systems go to waste? Again, you have to look at these things and see what we can learn. One thing that we can learn is that all new technology, it's like cars. Cars have gotten cheaper. TVs have gotten cheaper and cheaper, with higher quality and thinner and whatnot. And what you find with almost everything, except health insurance and some other things that are maybe more scam based. I mean, I don't know a good way to say that. But what you see is that at the beginning of a brand new thing, there's huge strides because it's easy, and then it levels off. And this is something important. If you've seen a new technology and in the last 10, 20 years, it's made huge strides to be cheaper, maybe something we can learn is saying we can't count on those huge strides because it's going to become harder. We've started to refine what memory is and how to make it. Now, I'm not saying there won't be strides and it won't continue to get cheaper. It will. It will. We'll see it continue to progress down, but it will be slower. It always does. For those familiar with Bredge's law of headlines have probably already guessed my opinion on this question. For the rest of you, I don't think that building in-memory systems was a waste of time. and resources just because the assumptions and hopes held at the time of their inception didn't come true. Just as the Roman Empire left traces all around of modern day Europe and the Mediterranean, and apparently minds of men everywhere, in-memory systems will have a significant impact on data processing today. There's a lot of actual things that we've taken from these in-memory systems. We've talked about it like the log, where you can store it in memory and then flush it to a log. Those types of things have persisted to hyper fast databases that persist to disk. So there's a lot of learnings that come from this as well. The very reason we cannot beat in-memory systems like Hyper in performance alone is that we rely heavily on the algorithms they devise. Their biggest gift is the idea that memory is no longer a second-class citizen in the form of a small and short-lived cache, but an ample resource to keep both database and query state. Another thing that I would point to here is the failure of PMEM. I think PMEM actually had the ability to revolutionize in-memory databases. PMEM was maybe one of the largest failures that had the most profound effect on databases as we know it, or data, honestly, as we know it. And really applications. I think that PMEM was actually underrated, underhyped for what it was. And if PMEM had worked out, we would be having a different conversation. We would be having a different conversations. Many of the optimizations we use in CedarDB are unthinkable without ample memory. Being able to keep at least all query state in memory allows our join and aggregation algorithms to no longer be optimized for page granular sequential access, but instead can rely on fast random access where there are advantages for many algorithms. So in our database, when we've done our first index is really, really simple and really dumb. But guess what? That was an in-memory index. And it's really fast. Now, it doesn't do range queries like many of you know. And as soon as I make the video, others will know. But it was blazing fast for in-memory lookup. And we leverage it to find stuff on disk as well. But those are the types of things that have come from this. So this is actually another really good one. The join cache data, that's actually also really cool. I hadn't thought about that before reading this. The types of things that come from these in-memory databases. The beauty of hash tables is that they turn O of n times n block nested loops or joins into an O of n operation, which requires a single hash table lookup, constant time, for each tuple on the probe side. Of course, these properties are also true of disk-based systems, but there are reasons why Postgres prefers the former two join algorithms in many cases. Hash joins rely heavily on random access, which is prohibitively expensive on traditional disks. So even though hash joins are better from a theoretical point of view, in practice, O of n means that the runtime is bounded by C plus F times n, where C and F are constant factors. You're talking about your hashing algorithms and stuff like that. For a hash join, F includes the much higher random access cost. All right. So just the last recap. Of course, just because building in-memory system was no mistake does not mean that none were made when building them. Similar to how Brits looked at the Roman Empire rather unsuccessfully to avoid making the same mistakes themselves. We want to learn from the mistakes and also the successes. This is what I was kind of pointing out. Some of the mistake was predicting that memory was going to hit, pennies by, 2020. If this had continued this right here from 95 to 2010, we'd be at free. Memory would be free. So assuming that that type of graph doesn't look like it does was maybe one of the bigger mistakes. The other thing that isn't talked about in here, which I think, is a lot of people have really started to appreciate consistency. And these in-memory systems only brought consistency by replicating it to enough places, which then also meant a couple things. One of the things that it means was if your system rebooted, you lost everything. Because remember, PMEM didn't work out. So if your system crashed, it lost everything. Even if you had a hot backup, that means that now that system had to reload everything from your hot backup, and you had to fail over to your hot backup and things like that. So these types of things were inconvenient, and people don't super love them because it means your database is really slow to come back online as well. As well as if you had a full outage, everything was lost. Now, there was ways to save things to logs. Reloading all of that into memory was hard and expensive, and took a long time. So outages were worse with in-memory databases as well. So there's actually quite a bit of things that maybe aren't talked about. I think price is a huge thing because, again, $100,000 a year for a database system is pretty cheap. There are people that spend millions of dollars running their databases. So when you can cut it by a factor of 100, easy win, easy win. At least for me, the biggest mistake of in-memory database system was to assume they had found the one and only solution for data storage. Even in the 7 years we've been working on CedarDB, storage trends have changed drastically. While CedarDB initially targeted only SSDs, only to vanish entirely, SSDs, non-volatile memory became a thing only to vanish entirely within a few years. This is PMEM. Non-volatile memory, PMEM, persistent memory. Like I said, PMEM would have revolutionized the way we thought of memory, not just for databases. Databases would have been revolutionized the most, but there would have been a ton of things. And so it's really important to, when you're designing these things, to keep up with those types of things. Because if PMEM became a thing, everything else would have been obsolete. And there's not even, the storage really shifted from locally attached to, and I actually think PMM is the future. I think NVMEs, I think the future computer, I'm going to say within 10 years, I hope within 10 years, doesn't have disk. I think the future computer doesn't have NVMe disks. I think there'll be a hard drive fast enough to be memory. And maybe you still have hyper fast cache that's still attached to your CPU that's bigger. You know, let's talk like an L4 cache. That's, 32 gigabytes or something like that. I don't know. I'm not entirely sure here. Because what people don't really realize is you have actually a lot of different memories. You have your L1, 2, and 3 caches on your CPU that are really fast because they're really close to the CPU. And then you have your memory, and then you have your hard drive. It's just like different cold storage tiers. How expensive is that memory? That's what you really run into. But I do think that memory as we think of it will change for the good. And that persistent memory, PMEM or something like that, will be a reality, hopefully. I hope. But because, I say that, and then every single time I say that, I contradict myself. Because, the thing is, I haven't ever seen where we can make persistent memory, non-volatile, that is as cheap as volatile. And what happens is that PMEM or whatever is basically a hard drive. And the thing is, if you can't make it cheaper than volatile memory, we're always going to have this disconnect. And the thing is, you're always going to have even more expensive, really fast, like L1, 2, and 3 caches on your CPU. So I don't know. But it's important to keep up because NVMe is great, but there's going to be a new thing. And that new thing is going to be better. And you gotta probably, or it could just go the way of the dodo and not be a thing at all. Anyways, moving on. This is hurting my brain. But because a buffer manager provides, I stopped talking about the buffer manager. Provides the necessary abstractions to the storage layer, we have been able to easily adapt. So even if the current storage reality is S3 and the like, the important lesson is to be prepared for that change again. Yeah, I think that's a good lesson. I think if you're building a data system like a database, making sure your storage on disk system is as agnostic as possible is a good move. Hey everybody, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm not dead. I'm not dead. My body tried to die. My wife's body really did. That was exciting. And then my daughter got the same thing, and she was just like, "Oh, I don't feel well for a couple of days," and I was angry because both my wife and I took it rough. And I still have a rough cough. Oh my gosh. All right. Learning from their success is learning to be bold. I don't understand this. This is like word salad. Without treating main memory as a first-class citizen, who's never treated memory as first-class citizen? I don't think anybody hasn't. We could still cling to sequential disk optimized algorithms, even with all the learnings of in-memory systems and beyond available systems we have built for disk are still optimizing for them. For example, in 2024, Postgres defaults to 4 megabytes of main memory for query processing, with a gracious 8 megabytes for hash tables. For reference, the smallest DR that you can find is 8 gigabytes. Even Apple MacBooks ship with 16 gigabytes. Oh, this is a good shame. Because they tried to do 8 gigabytes. Remember, with the $200 upcharge? Oh, good on them. Calling Apple out. This is all configurable, by the way. This is true, but also I find not true at the same time. So like what some people don't realize with databases here is that, let's say this is your data on disk, and let's say you want to store 1 petabyte, okay, of data. And let's say these are really big things. Let's say that each object in here is a terabyte. So you really only have 1,000 things to look at, right? This is easy to index in memory. You would only need, I'm just like making guesstimates, but you would only need like 1 gigabyte of memory to index this. And obviously I'm making completely fictitious, having terabyte objects is just ludicrous. But I'm making a point here. But let's say you have 1 petabyte here, and each object, each thing that you're storing is less than 1 kilobyte. You have a lot of these things. And what happens is your index is bigger. Much bigger. This depends on your index and how much information is stored with your index. I don't know what database you're using, but there's amount of information stored with an index, with a thing, with a and its location on disk is one thing, but there can be more information than just that. Like which machine is that piece of data stored on, and what is its generation and whatnot. There's a bunch of stuff that can be stored in an index that's really useful information. And that grows with the number of objects, not the amount of data. This index isn't actually related to the amount of data, but the number of things stored, the number of things that have to be referenced. And so this one over here could be like 2 terabytes, the index. So that's a thing that you need to really think about when you're talking about main memory. You actually do need to be careful about right sizing your memory for your disk. I don't know if that makes sense. Right sizing your memory for a disk is actually hard. And it's really cool for like Aerospike. You can actually do it. You can actually calculate, if you know the size of your object, you can actually calculate how much memory you need for how much disk storage, which is actually pretty awesome in my opinion. Another thing that it really allows you to do is find out the ratio for your object size, which is really important with right sizing. You don't really care about how much in the end you have. You just need to know that ratio. For every petabyte, I need 2 terabytes of index memory. Anyways, yeah, cool. Also, it's important to try to take advantage of new trends in computer hardware so as not to get stuck with the performance capability of the current generation. That's true. Like he had stated previously, jumping on the NVMe bandwagon was a big deal. Hey, Gebs, what is this article just joined? This article is talking about the fall of in-memory databases. How active is all that 1 petabyte? What's the type of data? Is it transactional? Yeah. I was talking about just memory at the time, but if you're talking about like throughput and whatnot, is it a write heavy? Is it a read heavy? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into right sizing a database. I was specifically talking about right sizing the amount of memory for your indexes. But there's more than just that. You're right. Also, if you're really talking about read or write heavy, depending on how heavy you're hammering it, you need memory for handling the incoming requests too, like managing that as well, the connection requests, which takes some amount of memory as well. But yeah. However, the painful lesson is that committing to a single technology is a huge gamble that is unlikely to pay off. I don't know about that. Oh, absolutely, Gebs. The type of index, I went into that. I said it depends on your index and your thing, the index and database that you're using. I don't know what, I started by saying I don't know what database you're using. And then I gave an example for like Aerospike. I do know what type of index it is, and I can actually calculate this relation if I know the object size. But the big thing that I was trying to point here is it's not the amount of data, it's the amount of objects that your data when you're calculating the index requirements there. Because this was like each object was 1 terabyte. So you have like these really big objects. Versus, both of these are one petabyte, but these objects are 1 terabyte, which is ridiculous, but it was just an example. And these were one kilobyte, which is really small objects, which is going to have a bigger requirement on your index size. But yes, and then it depends on your index, what data is stored in that index. So, each index has a size. Usually they're set. Like usually an index record costs a certain amount. But it depends on which index you're using. Absolutely. Is one of the lessons that buffer managers are here to stay? I don't know about this. It depends on what you mean by a buffer manager. Who knows what the future holds? Right now, there's a lot of buzz around CXL as the next big thing to replace the current brand of cloud object storage. And at least CXL, what is CXL? I don't know what CXL is. Compute Express Link is an open standard interconnect for high-speed internet. Oh, okay, okay. I did know what this was. Open Cappy. All right. All right. Well, that's it for the news section. You know what I wanted to do? You know what I wanted to do? I didn't have any great plans for the rest of today except to hang out. I wanted to try and install what was it? Windsurf in NeoVim. It has a NeoVim thing. Cone of Silence. Let me sign in here. Oh my goodness. I need a password. We could hang out and talk about some of the stuff as well, if you guys would like. Why so many switches? What do you mean switch? Why so many switches? Oh, you mean the ones behind me? Like right here? I just buy really expensive switches to put in the back of my shot. I feel like it makes me feel like a real engineer. Yeah. Lets me flaunt my money some way, you know. That's why the GPU's sitting on it. It's an old GPU. It's an old GPU. Why so many switches? Because I run a home lab. That home lab is not running right now. As you can see, they're not plugged in. For people that don't know, I sold my house to move closer to family. I got a rental. I moved my stuff to my parents' house, and then I moved it to my rental. And now, in 1 week, I'm going to move it, hopefully, to the house I'm buying, as long as closing happens. So everything is in limbo right now. So the home lab is not running. And likely won't be running until January 1st-ish. So that's what that's for, home lab. The home lab actually runs stuff that's exposed to the internet, which is pretty cool. We've done mini streams on that. And we'll do some more when we're getting it set back up. So they're actually not expensive switches. They're nice. They're Ubiquiti switches. I like Ubiquiti switches. They provide like that. I call them like prosumer. It's like you know, it's not your consumer grade stuff, but it's not like Cisco or 40 switch. Like it's not your $1 million cost of ownership switch. But they provide VLANs and some nice configuration and management, enough safety features to expose it to the internet with some security. So yeah, that's, and I think the bottom one, you know, it doesn't have PoE, So that one right there, it was like $200 or $300 for the Switch. This one is a little one, but it provides PoE, which runs stuff to my cameras, which is really convenient not to have to run power to the cameras because I have like 6 outdoor cameras and it has like 8 PoE switches. This is a router. This is just the security, the security appliance and router combination. And then this is not a switch. That top one is not a switch. It's just a patch panel. So really 1 1/4 switches. What hypervisor do I use? Right now, none. I use Kubernetes on bare metal, which is kind of cool, I think. I think in the future, maybe we'll try Proxmox. But so I've looked at possibly doing Proxmox, or the other thing that I thought about doing instead of Proxmox was keeping the bare metal Kubernetes cluster and running with something like one second. I hate this. Like every time I go on stream to talk about something that I love, it seems like I don't know the technology at all because I have this problem where short-term memory recall is really bad. Like just really, really, really bad. So I'll see somebody that I've known my entire life, and I'm like, I can't recall your name, and it's a problem with my brain. I get it, but it's not that I don't know your name. I just can't tell you right now because I wanted the information. You use Proxmox at work? Cool. I have not used Proxmox, the VM, like for real. I've played around with it, but I haven't tried it for real. So it's so it's something that I've definitely wanted to try leveraging. KubeVirt is it is the thing that AWS released that is micro VMs. Firecracker. Gosh dang it. I could only think of fireworks, and I knew fireworks was not the thing. Firecracker. So I was thinking of something like KubeVirt with Firecracker to do VMs in Kubernetes. So I don't know which one I'll go with. Will I go with like a Firecracker based micro VM thing, or will I go with Proxmox? And then I thought about maybe layering the two, be like, I'll use Proxmox and then run Kubernetes on top of that with Firecracker VMs inside of that. Because one of the things that I want to do is provide like a cloud service so like subscribers and stuff can go and run a little micro VM. Just because it's fun learning. And that's what we try to do here is we try to do stuff to learn and experience. Yeah, so I don't know which one I'll go with just yet. Right now, it's just bare metal Kubernetes, though. See, I don't have my PhD, so I'm not sure I'm smart enough for Ceph. You know what it's. That's what Ceph be like. I've managed Ceph before. I know. It does have integrated Ceph. Ceph in Proxmox is set it and forget it until it's not. Until it breaks. It's probably really good. I'm not. I have just. I have just. I have run Ceph. I know more about Ceph than I wish to care about. This looks cool though. This looks cool. So, anyways, Proxmox and Firecracker are the two that I'm looking at, and possibly I do Firecracker on top of, you know, because even if I do KubeVirt, I probably will do Kubernetes on top of Proxmox, and I might do micro VMs instead of containers. Oh yeah, it's that good? That's awesome. We'll experiment with it. We'll learn some. That's what we do here. Anyways, I need to get up and get a drink. It is 12. All right. And then I'm going to... And then we're going to try to install this. We're going to try to install Windsurf and Codium and see how good they are. Just play around with it. Yeah. So anyways. What's my hardware? I don't know. I have a I have a processor and some memory. I have some processor and some memory. That's so this is DDR5 memory. I'm running the latest-ish AMD. So the new AMD processors that are coming out will be the newer. This is the something X. AMD processors. One second. It's is it this one? I want to say it's the 9950X. I could be wrong. Yeah. It's this one. It's the 9950X. Oh, you meant the lab. Okay, so the lab is kind of fun. Because I wanted something that was power efficient. The lab is fun. I wanted something cheap and power efficient. And so the Null Lab runs on used motherboard, laptop motherboards. So they're not real servers. I would love to get real servers at some point, but real servers are expensive to run. They require much more power. I know that this isn't as high availability and whatnot like that, but if you go to like Framework, you can get their main boards, and I got used main boards. But you can just get the motherboard and just use that. Which when I got them, I think I paid like $150 for each one of the main boards that I got. And I just 3D printed these cases that hold the main boards. Sorry, I've been sick for 2 weeks now. But yeah, so they're just 3D printed cases. And that's what I build my clusters out of, which is pretty awesome. I even I even customized the case. So no. Yeah. Got some branding. Some branding. I didn't go with Raspberry Pis. I didn't go with Raspberry Pis. Raspberry Pis are interesting. I would actually love to have some ARM stuff. So like that would be really cool. I went with these because the idea is I actually wanted to be able to host, like, in the end, I want to run your workload. Because that's like the learning. I want to be like, what does it mean to be a cloud provider that offers compute? What are the things you have to look through? Like we were going through like gvisor and stuff like that. Now the move has put an entire pause on basically my entire life for the last half a year. And so I haven't done as much recently with it. But so I wanted enough power where like a couple hundred people that watch my YouTube videos would be able to join and run a workload that gets at least a little bit. So I haven't used Raspberry Pi, but I would love to get ARM-based things, which they don't have ARM. Now they do have a they do have a they have a risk. Yeah. They have a risk one, but I don't know that I'll be able to afford it. Usually risk at this point is really expensive. And not as good. So I don't love OpenStack. I don't love OpenStack. Do you like OpenStack? I haven't touched it for 5 years. I am not I want to make my own open source OpenStack effectively. That's actually in the end what I'd like to be doing, is making my own open source OpenStack. You love OpenStack? That's cool. All right. I need to go cough up a lung, make some more coffee, and then I'll be right back. I'm going to put some music on for you guys. Then we're going to try to install this Codium, and we're also going to try to install Windsurf. See just how good it is. Can we surf the wind? That's if my lung, stays inside my body or not. Okay. Give me 15 minutes. Give me 15. Oh, you know what? I didn't get this switched out, did I? Well, we're going to go. We're going to go to a be right back screen. That is. All right, we're going to go to that screen. I'll be right back. I'm going to give myself 12 minutes to make a cup of coffee. I have to hand grind the beans. It's a whole process. Stretch my legs, go to the bathroom, cough up a lung. I'll be back in 12 minutes. I have a new be right back screen, but I haven't finished it. I've gotten it like 3/4 of the way there. I'm getting some animations into it. It's going to be pretty sweet, I think. But, I tried to die over the last 2 weeks, so I didn't get to it. All right. Oh, hey, look. I'm back later than I meant to be. Oops. 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 Let's see. All right. Let's All right. Still not feeling quite 100%, but I am getting there. All right. Oh, man, I forgot to run an ad while I was gone. Oh, man. Now to keep pre-rolls off, I have to run another ad. Okay, we're going to do an ad, and then we're going to install Windsurf. That's what we're going to do. Sorry. See you in 3 minutes. I super apologize for this. All right. Well, while that's going, so there's two parts to this. There is the VS Code part, and then there is Windsurf Editor. So we're going to download Windsurf Editor. The interesting thing here is we're gonna do it with a tarball. Actually, let's check apt first. Arch install. Woot! I love you, Arch. I love you, Arch. I use Arch, by the way. I'm not showing you guys. Yeah. All right. Package base. Windsurf. Done. Yay dash SYU. Hopefully nothing of the system needs updated. Let's see. This should be fine, right? Yeah. Just of the core. That looks fine. There is so much like phlegm in my throat. My lungs, I think are fine. It is literally just like right here. All right, okay, the other thing that we wanted to install was this. Oh. Oops. Let's see. We want config in them, init. And then in here we have Copilot. So we basically are just gonna do this, put that in there, and copy this. Yeah, okay, that's done. So really now we should be able to windsurf, right? Let's finish that. Let's get out of that and then do windsurf. Windsurf. Be prepared. Get started. Get started. Why do we need this? Does anybody get in here and then like, nah, I decide not to. I decide not to. Let's just add a button to click. Let's start fresh. Ooh, should we do Vim bind? We're gonna do Vim bindings. We're gonna see how well it Vims. Tokyo Night. Where's we'll just go with dark. All right, Cone of Silence. Cone of Silence. Clicking the buttons. All right, Cone of Silence, gone. Let's surf. Let's get started with Windsurf. Code with Cascade, open command palette. Okay. So Cascade is over here. Let me show you. This is Cascade over here, so I'm gonna put my face right in the middle so it doesn't cover up anything important. You know, maybe down here for right now. We'll see how that works. We'll see how. So this is Cascade. One second. Let's embiggen this. Oh, so much better. Okay. Okay, let's do a new project with Cascade. All right, let's go to code. Let's do Cascade test. Very VS Code. Yes, I trust the authors. Okay. Wait, where'd Cascade go? Okay. Phew, I thought Cascade left us. It's back, though. It's back. Jan OT, how are you doing? All right, let's see. I want to write a Astro SaaS application leveraging React and TypeScript and Tailwind that sells cloud computing. We want a landing page as well as a pricing page and a login powered by Clerk with a dashboard protected by the login. Let's go. Come on, Cascade. Okay. Accept. Did it install? Oh no, did we get this? I think it worked. Okay. Yep, let's CD into it. It doesn't look like it actually created anything. Where did it make this? Where did it do this? I mean, it says that it did it here, but it didn't actually make anything. I think it didn't like answer yes. I think like it just stopped here, right? And it hasn't detected that there's an error. It just is continuing on. Right, because we're not in the right directory. So they just manually made the directory. It's literally just... It's not using npm to create it anymore. It just was like, screw that. Oh gosh, this is terrible. Let's see. It's literally just making a basic project structure. Okay, we're copy and pasting instead of using the create Astro app. Oh well. I'm throwing stuff at the wall till something works. I doubt this works. I doubt this works. I've seen another LLM try this before, and it doesn't tend to go well. Now, one thing, I'm gonna give them credit for this. It didn't catch that it needed to say yes here. Like, this is the failure here. It didn't say yes. But it didn't realize it failed for a little while, but eventually it caught that it was failing. Eventually. So, I mean, that's good, right? That's good. Not great, but... Is the music volume good with, like, voice volume? It's still generating stuff. Oh, look at this. Copied and pasted this right out of the template. We'll accept all the changes. Let's give it a shot. Let's what was this called? Cascade test. Why didn't I call it Windsurf? Let's see. Let's see. This is definitely not the efficient way to do it. Like, the right way to do it would have been this, right? Like, this would have been the right way to do it. And actually, this has been one of my biggest critiques of LLMs. This cost, well, I'm just gonna say this cost a penny. It didn't. It's cheaper than that. But like, this cost a penny. Then what it decided to do, because it was too dumb to say yes, it decided to cost me $20. You know, if this was a penny, what it did was $20. And if it doesn't work, it still costs me $20, right? Like, if this isn't what I wanted, I have to query it again. All right, so that seemed to work, right? So can we just npm run dev? What will this look like? What will this run? What will this look like? Okay, it got. Hilariously enough, the middleware not being able to be loaded error caused an error. All right, let's see if it can fix it. We're just gonna give it this. The error is likely due to the middleware implementation. Oh, really? Oh, really? My goodness. So we updated a comment. We got rid of clerk. We're just like, wow. Clerk is the clerk is the one sucking here. We just deleted everything. Okay, let's see. Astro dashboard. I mean, we just got rid of our middleware altogether. Yeah, and we got rid of clerk. That was the solution. The solution was you didn't actually want these. You didn't actually want to use clerk. So do I have to accept each one of these individually? Okay, we'll just... Oh, man. There needs to be an accept all changes. Okay. I still got to do it per file and then accept the npm install. All right. We just removed clerk, my friend. We just removed it. Okay. Now maybe we need to set up clerk. This might be... Would we need it though just for also, why would you need a clerk secret key, right? You'd only need the publishable key because this is your front end, right? You don't want to put your secret key here. Thank you very much. Let's just remove clerk for now. Scott B. Obviously, my Twitch alerts are down. Let's Fly, what are you doing? This is definitely flies. Now, I have been out sick for 2 weeks, so I haven't looked at anything. So this is quite possibly my fault. Because remember, we don't handle the refresh token properly. You know what? This annoys me right here. This has happened to me. And I wonder... Sometimes it doesn't restart. So you know how they'll pause it? And this is suspended? But it should have started when there was a request to it, right? Let's see. Yeah, it's suspended right now. But when there was a request to it, when there was a request from my streaming PC, it should have started it. But every once in a while it doesn't. The last time we had this problem, I went to show you guys the problem and then it started, which was hyper annoying. You know what I need? I need something to be checking for this. I need something to be checking for this. To be like, it hasn't started. Because basically it fails silently on my streaming PC. Because there's nothing to see unless if it has something to show. And it fails silently. But it should start now. It's starting now. But I've had to query it a couple times now. One second, cone of silence really quickly. Just looking at the logs. Yeah, it's not started yet. Check it out. Failed to change, refusing to start. All right. All right. That took way too long to start. Now, it did fail on the token, get access token. Which this is me. And I kind of guessed this, but it didn't start the first time. Okay, I gotta look into that. I'm sorry, Scott. I'm sorry you missed that, Scott. I will fix that after today's stream. I gotta fix how our Twitch alerts work altogether. I gotta fix how our Twitch alerts, because this is a consistent problem every 3 months or so. The refresh token fails, and they just silently fail. If I at least knew that the refresh token failed, that would be one thing, but I don't get that. I just get a silent failure. That being said, thank you so much for the sub, Scott. I super appreciate it. You guys are awesome. Absolutely fantastic. And I appreciate it a lot. Hopefully starting in January, I'm going to change a little bit how I stream. I'm looking to do some stuff that I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to do more prescriptive things. Like, we're going to stream to do a thing. Now, I don't particularly like reaction content and stuff like that, but what I wanted to point out with like reaction content is it's easy to do the content, whereas a lot of my content, like, okay, I want to do another database episode. A lot of times there's like research for me to do myself, and it takes a lot of time. I can't do one of those a week or whatnot. And so I'm looking to do or find some content that's a little bit easier to do. That's a little bit more fun. We're going to do some of the same programming stuff, but it's not all going to be just, okay, we're going to program something random. We'll have a few of those, but I'm going to try to move away from just random programming as much. I think we'll just do those like maybe once or twice a week at this point. And we'll have like some scheduled stuff that, and some of the scheduled stuff will be like the database stuff, because we will do those episodes, and those are heavy on programming because we're implementing consensus or whatever. But we'll have then some other stuff in the off weeks of that. You know, we have a vector database thing coming up. Then we have a vector graph database thing, hopefully after that. Then we have some stuff for our database that we're going to program. If there's some other types of content that you guys would like to see, let me know. I'm also wanting to really lean into critiques of blogs and things, where a large company does stuff and I want to go over like what it actually might mean to people that don't have the same scale issues. So anyways, we'll see how it goes. You guys let me know. I'm not sure I needed to know that. I'm trying to think of how big 72 inches is. I didn't get this. Hey, check it out. Wait a second. Oh no, it's not a dark mode. Check this out. Here we get this like nice header with his little drop shadow. Looks real nice. Here, that goes away. Not needed. Fantastic. Okay. Oh my goodness. My eyes are burning. Can we make the default dark mode with an optional light mode? No! We expected it. Jano, you called it. No, Jano, you 100% called it. Oh. It did the dumb thing, and it cost me. It cost me my points. It cost me my free points. You didn't kind of call it, Jano. You 100% straight up called it. You 100% called it. All right. Well, that experiment's done for the hour. Why must I be rate limited? Wait. Did I just get past its rate limiting? Did I just... They call me a hacker. How do I hack? I ask tough questions to the LLMs. I ask tough questions. And instead of answering my question, they just went with my previous. This doesn't even make sense because I didn't even ask it about light dark mode. They call me a hacker. I have hacked the LLMs, people. I have hacked the LLMs. Oh no. Oh no. It got halfway through. It got... Oh no. Why? Can I try it again? It left me in a bad state. It left me in a bad state. Oh no. It just puked on my page and then was like, see ya. See ya later. Let's see. Oh gosh. Wait. Yeah, it's off. This is the dark mode? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. If I had Snapper, I could have rolled back. You're absolutely right. There is something to be said about immutable disk systems. And that is, they're awesome, but are also not user-friendly a lot of the time. And for some reason, we now have errors in the project. Isn't it immutable? Isn't that what you're talking about? Where whenever you make a change, it basically saves the last snapshot and makes a new section. This rate limiting is really rough. Really rough. Like the fact that it chopped it in the middle is kind of sucky. I'm sorry, Scott. I wasn't trying to like. No, you're wrong. I actually have worked with the SUSE file system. I mean, it's an immutable file system. Basically, when you make a change, you make a new partition with that change, and then like that's how you can roll back to the old one, is because it didn't actually get changed, and you keep a few in the history, right? I didn't mean to. I wasn't trying to be confrontational. Which I mean, it's nice for that reason. You know what I think of when I think about this is Bottle Rocket. I like Bottle Rocket because of this. It does that very same thing. Basically, the OS file system is immutable. So when you update, it writes to a new partition. And in the case of you wanting to roll back, you just point to the old part, you boot into the old partition. And this is how Kubernetes and file systems should be run in production. I think it's... Maybe I just need to get better at them. Maybe that's my problem. I find them less fun when I'm just sitting on them. Yeah, when I'm just sitting on them. You know, you sit on your file system every once in a while. That's what I do. Okay. That being said, today has been fun. We've gotten rate limited. I forgot that I was going to take my wife out. Sooner than I expected. 1:45. So I got like 15 minutes to go get ready, and I need to like shave and whatnot. So I'm going to go do that. Reminder, this upcoming week, probably not going to stream. I'm closing on my house, hopefully, and whatnot. I don't know if I can do news on Fridays. Work has gotten busy, and I've been working through my lunch breaks. I'm going to see if it calms down or if I need to change when the news happens. So we'll see. I will stream next Saturday. I don't get the keys to my house until 4 p.m., which means I can stream up till like 2 p.m. Before leaving. So I will stream next Saturday morning. I'm not sure for how long. But I don't know about Friday news. If I don't do the news on Friday, I will do it on Saturday. I won't just skip it. I'll let you guys know in advance if I can. Like I said, no streaming during the middle of the week this week. Maybe, probably not next week either. My hope is the following week is to move my office to the new house. And if I get that all done, I'll have a streaming in my new office stream. It won't be perfect. I'm just going to kind of get everything set up. This has gone on too long for me to like wait to like build it out perfectly. And in fact, we're going to build my office in the basement. But at first, my office is going to be in the upstairs while we're working on the basement. There's some stuff we have to do that's in a little bit worse shape than we had hoped. So that's going to be like a year down the road where we basically have to tear out the basement of this house and rebuild it. So there's like a year's worth of work for me in that. So anyways, sorry for not streaming. I feel terrible because there's people like Scott B who subscribe, and I super appreciate it, and I feel terrible when I don't stream as much. In 2 weeks, hopefully I get back to streaming. Like basically after Christmas, I have the week off after Christmas. I'd like to do some streaming. We have some fun streams planned, like building a Kubernetes operator in basically 2025. And we're going to build a game in a Kubernetes operator. It should be a lot of fun. So I have some fun streams that we should be planned to do and roll out. So, you know what? Hopefully that makes up for me not streaming that much right now. Thank you, everybody. Super appreciate all your support. Super appreciate you guys hanging out. I'll see you at least next Saturday, if nothing else. But maybe I'll get something else in the meantime. All right. See you all. Have yourselves a fantastic